Welcome everyone, Vidette Mayer here. This is the daily tune-in for Monday, October 18th, and it's gonna be such an exciting week. I'm gonna refer to my notes. I wanna go through some space weather with you today because it is giving us an opportunity to work through, again, some of the denser parts of us because we're actually entering into, in November and December, into a time where it becomes kind of a rebirth time, a brand new cycle. You know, Christmas Day is the whole idea of the birth of a consciousness, a higher consciousness. So November and December, we start moving into that rebirth. So we're now just kind of finishing off the end of a massive cycle, but that actually is starting with a new mini cycle this week. And we were talking about new cycles starting last week. We were finishing up some old cycles last week. This week is the new cycle. I am certainly not an expert on astrology, but I keep up with it enough to kind of connect all the dots of all the different energies, information that I get energetically, whether it's intuitive or astrologically, looking at space weather, and I piece it all together to kind of come up with the story, the prediction of where we are energetically in the cosmos and in consciousness, so that we can kind of understand how to tune into the energies. So Jupiter has come out of retrograde, and it has been in retrograde since June. So the way that I kind of look at retrogrades, I use a lot of metaphors because that's how my brain works and it helps me understand things a little bit more. How I look at retrogrades is kind of like when you're working on your computer and all of a sudden it goes into a long pause and you get like what I usually call the circle of doom, and the spinning circle of doom that just keeps going around and around, and it's so frustrating because you can't move forward with whatever you're working in. It's just a long pause and you're at the mercy of it. That's what retrogrades are. So today marks the end of Jupiter's retrograde, and tomorrow marks the end of Mercury's retrograde. Now, because they were both in that pause, we all had to go into pause. Computers pause up, technology pauses up. So when different planets are in retrograde, it simply means they kind of pause in their orbit, and it shifts the complete energy of our whole galaxy, which then shifts the energy of how it affects our planet, and whatever affects our planet affects us as human beings. So with the kind of the spinning ball of doom for Jupiter coming now back online, and Jupiter goes direct, which means it goes back into its normal pattern, it's orbiting, it's now affecting us, and it puts us back into a flow. That's a really great thing. That's the beginning of a brand new cycle where we can now be in the flow to then work on these last few weeks of this major cycle and clear out any of the densities. And we're getting a really good opportunity to do it right now, and I'll show you why. So this is the week again to keep your consciousness on what is it that is showing up in your life that you're like, oh, this is so painful, or this is so frustrating, this is so stressful. Whatever those things are, this is where you have to look at it, because you are now in a flow of a pattern that allows you to clear it easier than you could when we were kind of paused and in that like denser space. So let's take a look at what is happening here on the Schumann resonance, and just kind of look at what's happening to our planet, so we can then better tune into that and get to the actual message. Let's look at the Schumann resonance, and as you can see, we had some this was the 16th, so a couple days ago, about 48 hours ago, we had some pretty big blasts of photonic energy. So I posted on this on my Instagram and on Telegram. These are what I can, metaphorically, I see these as kind of like a shower, As you know, last week we had these denser energies that were just kind of hammering us on those lower frequencies of our emotional well-being and our physical well-being. And after those flowed through, and many of us sat in the discomfort of having to sit with anything that felt dense in our lives, the way that I see these white blasts are really like the energetic shower that after a good old emotional workout or a physical workout, you had some ascension symptoms, and you felt heavy, you felt dense. These kind of cleanse us, is how I see it. These white blasts of pure photonic light come in, and they put us in feelings of bliss. We might have more energy, we might feel good in our bodies. And then as we kind of moved out of what is that, that would have been Saturday and Sunday, now we're back in here on the 18th. You'll see we have these, these lower frequencies being worked out. You'll see this red in here. Those are the kind of the zaps to those lower densities. We have a lot of this green energy, which is the healing frequencies. So those things, what's healing is the things that are kind of bringing you pain right now. So as you know, remember, like anything that has to heal, a broken bone or anything like that has to heal. It goes into the most painful part before it opens up and it really gets to the healing process. If you have a hangnail, it usually hurts the worst right before the day where it starts to get better. So if you're feeling just really low, and you're feeling as though these densities of anger, shame, grief, resentment, whatever the emotion is, stress, overwhelm, it's all feeling like it's getting to be too much. It's going to feel like that right before it opens up. The interesting part too is if you look at these white blasts, there was nothing from our sun. There's really no reason why we had these. So this really ties into my belief that we are being aided, we are being helped by beings outside of our realm of understanding that are helping us to blast these higher frequencies into our planet and into our magnetosphere, so that we can, as humans, can actually process these heavier emotions, these densities right here that are getting a workout, so that we can increase in our consciousness, bring our consciousness to a higher place collectively, so that we can then start to project out a healthier and more abundant and thriving consciousness out into the world, and start to recreate everything that we see falling down around us, the systems, all the things that in our outer world that we're seeing breaking down. You also, if we take a look at the magnetosphere, there's a lot of red energy all around the entire planet. This is our planet right here. This is the sun side. This is the dark side. Not the dark side, but you know what I mean, like the opposite side of the Earth from the sun. So this here is this, again, some pressure. So it coincides with what we're seeing on the Schumann resonance. Those that pressure that's kind of pushing things to the surface. The other good thing is we're not seeing so much sun activity coming in from the sun, so we're in a holding pattern here for us just to sit with exactly everything that we're having to sit with and process. So this is the time to do it, so that we don't enter into this next major cycle with these densities. This is when we get to completely cleanse ourselves, to go into a whole new cycle and have it be clear. So this is the LASCO. This shows any sun coronal mass injections. On the 16th right there, you'll see something come off, but it's nothing major. So we should be pretty clear for this week as far as any sun activity hitting us from here. It usually takes about 3 days for anything that comes blast from the sun to hit us. So far right now, between now and Wednesday, we should be, it looks as though we're going to be pretty clear of anything from the sun. However, that we won't get things from our friends in the cosmos that are helping us to ascend into these higher states of being, so that we can change what's happening here on our planet. So what does this have to do? This energy that we're talking about, this new cycle that we get to start now that Jupiter has moved direct and into tomorrow, that's when Mercury will as well. So things will start to work again. If you've been having like weird computer issues, weird technological issues, I've had these like quirky little things happen, but I usually, with the spinning ball of doom on my computer for the last few weeks, but I'm looking forward to that not being the case, and really just kind of getting into a flow here. And when these denser energies come up, you kind of sit with them, you understand what this is about. It's for us to take a look at and cleanse. You do have to do some work in order for us to heal and get into these higher frequencies of being. You have to sit with the gunk, and you just have to. Otherwise, it's just going to remain, and it's going to keep building and building and building until it is quite painful. So you can either get it while it's a little bit painful, or it's going to get worse and worse. It's just like anything physical. If you ignore it, it gets worse. So it's better to get it and actually start to heal it. And then once it's healed, be in the preventative mode. Take care of yourself. As something comes up emotionally, just take care of it right then. Don't let it add up and add up and add up until it becomes this big issue that you then have to look at. So depending on where you are on your energetic healing journey, it will determine how hard this time is for you. If you've been working on it and you've been clearing and purging and keeping up with it as a preventative measure, then these frequencies that we're seeing on the Schumann that are kind of blasting those denser, if you don't have as much density in you, this is going to be an easy couple of days, and especially these daily tune-ins are for today and the next 24 hours. So it should be a pretty easy 24 hours. If you've been ignoring and hoping something's going to just go away and hoping things get taken care of, there's no one that's taking care of it. If it's hurting you and it's something that's dense in your life, whether it's a circumstance, a job, a relationship, something physical, if you just have been ignoring it, there could be some discomfort in the next 24 hours. It all depends on where you are. This is a very general message. So depending on where you are consciously and in consciousness, and how much density and how much work you put in will determine what these next 24 hours are. But we are in quite a bit of a flow now, so it'll be almost a little bit easier no matter where you are to just simply take care of it. So spiritually, for the next 24 hours, gratefully receive any messages that you're getting from your own spirit, from your own soul. You have learned something during this pause. So what I mean by that is with Jupiter or Mercury being in retrograde, that's kind of a time where, when your computer pauses, you can't do anything but just go and like grab a cup of coffee or grab a tea or just sit there and do something and or just be with it until that spinning ball of doom goes away. So when these planets have been in retrograde, it's allowed us, Jupiter's been in retrograde since June, so it's allowed us to have this time to go inward. And I know for me personally, from June to now, it has been intense. It has been like, my husband and I have been just in the realms of being like, whoa, what is this? And taking care of things and having to grow in our own relationship and grow in our life, and having to look at the things that we felt like didn't work out in our favor, but why is that? And did it really not work out in our favor? And really having to alchemize the densities that we have faced in order to understand and take the lessons from it and go deeper into our intentions. What are we creating, and what are we having to learn and clear and purge in our own life to manifest into the intention that we are really holding for ourselves and have held for almost a year now. So these last 4 months have been what we have felt is a pause, but now coming out of it, we have our spirits now, our soul has learned some lessons. It hasn't, it already knows, but our ego has learned some lessons. Our bodies have, our bodies have come up in frequency. So now we have expanded into a higher expression of ourselves. And when the spirit and the heart and the physical body all integrate, there have been many, many lessons that have been available to us. So as they start to bubble up in guidance to our next steps towards our intention, now is the time to receive those and act upon those messages, because we are higher in consciousness. We are higher in our higher selves. We are completely different than who we were in June. So if you think of yourself back in June, or come to imagine who you were in June, my guess is you are like, I don't even know who that person was. I'm completely different. I know that's how I feel. Even from 2 weeks ago, when I look at myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm completely new. So we are being rebirthed, and we are being upgraded. We are being up-leveled consciously from all of these energies and all of this astrological and cosmic support, as well as the support from our cosmic celestial friends, angels, archangels, whatever your beliefs are in that. I'm very, very, I'm what's the word I'm looking for? I'm extremely supportive of, and have a deep knowing that I'm supported by guides outside and within myself. So I know that I have been supported, and believe that we are, as a planetary collective as well, we are being supported. We are in a 10 cycle, so this being in the flow, 10 is the number in numerology for instant manifestation. So these thoughts that bubble up, the receptive messages that come up into our consciousness, these are meant to manifest quickly. And also, these are the intentions, and yet what is supportive of the intentions? Our emotional energy. That is kind of the electric that charges the intentions. So not only do we have to be aware spiritually of what is bubbling up from our soul and our intuition as far as messages in the next 24 hours, but we also have to be really paying attention to our emotional selves. So as you're working through those densities, that this energy, this cosmic energy, is kind of pulsating on the denser parts of us, in these next 24 hours, this is when it's really important that you respond to them and not react to them. Reacting to them means you defend them. It means, like, if you have, resentment that comes up, and you wanna fight that resentment, and you wanna go and have your say, and you're gonna react to anything that comes up in your face or that's presented to you from the physical world, and you're gonna fight it. That is electrically, so to speak, energetically charging the same intentions that are coming up from your soul, and they can't go anywhere except to match the emotional charge that you have. So you can have the most inspiring ideas from your intuition come up, but if you are reacting to these densities that are being triggered right now, and you're meeting them at the level of energy that they come in, then that's what you're going to create, because we're in a very flowy space right now. So manifesting everything that you get intuitively and energetically can manifest pretty quickly. If you are responding and just sitting with these energies and allowing anything that's triggered in you to work, just work its way through. That's what it's here to do. It's just, you don't have to do anything with it. You just sit with it, and you feel the pain, and you feel the grief, and you sit with it. You take a nap, you journal it out, you breathe it out, you take a bath, you take care of it, and you respond. That's going to bring it's going to purge that from you, from your energetic system, and it'll bring you up in frequency. So any intuitive ideas, any intuitive messages, any intuitive nudges that bubble up will be met with a higher frequency, and that's the very thing that you want to manifest and pull you into a higher expression of yourself tomorrow. That's what this is all about. So it's really, really important that you celebrate and be with all that fills your soul. Everything that comes in, trust the intuitive nudges, trust your messages. This is when, today especially, in awareness, you have got to take emotional responsibility. It's the name of the game today, because what you emotionally feel is going to fuel these beautiful messages and these beautiful ideas from intuition. So what are you fueling these ideas with? That is your quest for today. How does this show up in your physical life? Your intuition leads your actions today. Your ego, we've been talking about this from last week too. Your ego mind will attempt to hijack you. It's going to be the one that's going to say, you know what, this whole resentment thing that I keep using resentment, I think, as an example, because that's the thing that I'm dealing with. Resentment bubbles up about a situation in my life, and it is just like poking and poking and poking at me. It keeps coming up at night, keeps coming up. And what my practice was in the last few nights is just sitting with it and just watching it and not doing anything, not sending any text messages, not sending any emails, because in that space where I'm sitting with the resentment, that's exactly by reacting to it and allowing it to trigger me into action from that space. It's just feeding the problem. It's feeding the resentment. But by being in it and understanding it and waiting until the higher perspective comes in, the soul perspective, and says, "Dear one, this is your work." The problem goes away when you allow this resentment to just simply dissolve. And it always does. There might be another layer tomorrow, and there might be another layer tonight, and yet now we're getting the hang of how this shows up. So your ego is still going to be practiced. It is also understanding that there's a new operating system in town, and that operating system in your inner town is your intuition. So as meaning your ego, starts to come up and say, you know what, that resentment, that person, you need to go and send them an email, and you need to tell them this, this, and this. When the soul says, no, we're not doing that anymore, slowly the ego will start to then become used to being more the submissive role. There's, like we've been talking about, there's still a need and a use for the ego, but it has to understand that it only follows up and supports the spirit and the soul-led choices. So if that is still in your consciousness, that your ego still wants you to do something about this grief and do something about this, I don't want to feel this, so let's go do what we always do. Let's go turn on a screen in front of us. Let's go have a drink. Let's go pop a pill. There's this sweet little bird that just keeps landing right in the window right there. He keeps looking in. He's like, it's kind of like he's listening to I don't know if it's a he, but I'm going to call it a he. He's listening to the message as well. This is where you must command the presence of spirit in your day. So if you are going to a job that maybe sucks your soul, if you have to have a relationship with someone who you're challenged with, the power of your spirit, the being soul-led, is what is going to be the solution to this problem. You don't have to think your way to the solution. You don't have to Google your way to the solution. You simply allow the commanding power of your spirit, the compassion and the empathy of your spirit to take the role. And that is the part that you have to practice out in the world today. And I know it can be really difficult, and it can be really difficult to just take that breath before you respond, before you react, so that you can respond from a higher perspective and bring your soul perspective to the situation, when probably what caused the density in between the situation and this person is the ego-led reaction that has fueled it in the past. You're new now, you're in a new cycle, and this new mini cycle is taking you into a larger cycle starting in November and December. So practice this newness, because what you practice now takes you into that bigger cycle, and you are in a flow, you are being helped, you are being supported. These energies that are coming in, that are hitting us, and you see them on the Schumann and in the magnetosphere, these pressures, it's there for your support. It is there for your healing. So accept it as the healing it is, and just know that sometimes healing, it can be painful, and it can be a big pain in the neck, but you've got to put your whole heart and soul into the healing so that that then manifests into your physical. So a big day today. It's in your favor. Everything is in your favor today. Even if it doesn't look like that to your ego, remind yourself 10,000 times, 1,000 times today that today is in my favor. Everything that I do from my soul today is taking me into a higher expression of myself tomorrow, and that problem or that situation, that relationship won't feel nearly as heavy tomorrow. It might still be there to be healed, and yet it's just a new layer, and you're coming into that new layer at a higher perspective, at a higher version of you, so it gets easier and easier and easier until it's gone. It no longer triggers you. It no longer has the effects that it has. So sit with this energy that's poking at you, because that is then when we as a collective start to heal this dense crap that we have been dealing with internally and externally, and we then become the projection of a higher consciousness, and then we get to rebuild everything that we see that is falling apart in our collective world, because it has been built with lower deceptive manipulation energy underneath it. It's a beautiful time. Keep going. I will see you tomorrow on the next Daily Tune-In. Have a good one. Mwah. If today's Daily Tune-In brought you value and insight, please consider giving in return for that value by leaving a love offering. All donations go to keeping this platform operating and in service to humanity during these transformational times. To go even deeper into your soul frequency, please consider these offerings. For personal insights into your most pressing questions and concerns, get an energetic insight reading delivered directly to your inbox. To take a quantum leap in your transformation, book a personal session with Vedette. There are several options available based on how deeply you would like to go into your most desired soul-led life. To find more information and to book your sessions, please visit VedetteMayer.com.